Hi, Michael Anthony Giudicissi. This is All Things Billy the Kid. Hey y'all, it's me, Michael Anthony Giudicissi. Welcome to All Things Billy the Kid. And today, we're on the hunt for the final moments of Sheriff William Brady. We're here in beautiful downtown Lincoln, New Mexico, and we've got two extra special guests, Brandon Dickson, and the man, the myth, and the legend, Drew Gomber is with us as well. They're going to walk us step by step through the final moments of Sheriff Brady, what happened, where it happened, why it happened, and how it happened. So let's get to it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here today, Drew, Brandon. Much appreciated.
Yes, thanks
We're in a pretty historic spot right here, at least as far as the origins of the Lincoln County War. Right there next to you, Drew, is at least the marker where
the marker
Brady fell. Did Brady actually fall there, guys?
Fell out about 20 feet behind where we're standing. Where I'm standing.
Tell me that again.
No, it's we just know that he went down right by where that fire hydrant is, and this was the nearest place they could put the marker. So,
okay. So when you're here, you're close, but you're not actually on the spot.
And actually, that happens a lot throughout all the places of the Lincoln County War that are marked.
So how do we know, before we even get into the mechanics of that day, how do we know that that's where Brady fell? Like, who says that?
Well, everybody in town witnessed the shooting, really.
Yeah, there's many witnesses saw exactly where he fell. Plus, you got Squire Wilson was up here hoeing in his garden. That's where he got wounded. So he and his son.
And his place is long gone, but it was here. Okay.
And his son was right over here playing. You got to think about when the murder happened. There was kids outside playing.
They were shooting over the heads of those children.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
So tell them about back there.
So.
What? The
Where
house?
he moved his house to.
Yeah, after the shooting, Wilson moved his house further back.
Really? Just to make sure that if there was another
there was more
shooting, he wouldn't be part of it?
Moved the property further back.
All the way back to where those trees are.
Gotcha. All right, take me through that day. Which direction is Brady going and who's with him?
Okay, so he's coming towards us. You're looking down there towards the house and the big store, the Murphy Dolan store, the courthouse. That's where he's coming from. He's had breakfast at the Wortley. Him and his deputies are coming this way, and then there's multiple stories on why they're headed this way to the courthouse, which is just behind you.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're walking to the east from the Wortley, and so they're going around this way. I don't know why, but because of where the Corral was, I just always assumed they were walking into the Regulators. But you're going to tell me that the Regulators actually let them pass, right? Before they...
I don't think...
Go ahead. You tell what you think.
I just don't think the Regulators were ready for them. When they came walking down the street past the Regulators, it was like, hey, let's kill the sheriff. And they all jumped up in high spirits. And that's how... And it took them that long, which would bring Brady to about there, to get all their equipment together.
Yeah, to run out the back, grab their rifles off the horses because they were loaded up to go.
Yeah.
Then they would have had to get in position. That gives plenty of time for him to get here. You got to think of, too, George Washington and George Robinson, who were McSween helpers. They were arrested that same day for being in the corral. It's most likely that while the guys were in there having breakfast, Washington or Robinson says, hey, here comes Sheriff Brady. And once they get that information, the worst decision of the Lincoln County War is made on their part.
Yeah, Dick Brewer was justifiably pissed. Or upset, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, it's YouTube. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So this was a total crime of opportunity. It was not. There's some documentation, or there's some testimony that maybe McSween mentioned he wouldn't mind if it happened, but what you're saying is there was a group of hotheads, and they saw the sheriff walking down.
Actually, they were known as the hothead element.
Is that true?
It's the most trigger happy of the Regulators. None of the cool heads. Brewer was gone. Bowdry and Scurlock were gone. Everybody's home taking care of stuff on their farms and ranches. So all that's left is the hotheads. You got McNabb, you got Middleton, you got Waite, you got Widman, Bonney, Brown, French. All these guys.
The gang's are all here.
Yeah.
Wow.
None of these guys clear thinkers in the moment, certainly.
Can we walk down by the fire hydrant here? So it seems to me, based on the layout of what I'll call the battlefield here, was Brady shot in the back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Left side and back of the head is what the reports say.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we're not, if we're the hothead element of the Regulators, we're not above shooting somebody in the back. This is war, and we'll shoot him in whatever we can hit him.
This is the real Old West. Nobody was above shooting anybody in the back.
Got it. So Brady makes his way across here. Can you give me an idea of where the corral was? Because it's clearly not there, but we see the Tunstall store, and then I can see there's a house next to it. Where was the corral wall?
So you got to erase that house and imagine that there's like a wall running down the back wall of that house almost.
On the back side of the house toward the river.
Yeah, it makes like an alley.
Uh-huh.
You'll see between the two houses.
Yep.
What was there was open. There was the corral fence and then the corral wall, which kind of runs parallel with that back side of the house.
Okay. And so I'm going to say that the Regulators are 60 to 75 yards away.
Yeah, I counted out. It's 70 steps from right here to about where that corral wall would have been.
Uh-huh. I see a local celebrity
Exactly.
pulling up here.
Who is
This is Sheriff Brady's biggest fan.
Bang.
Hey, can you pull up a little?
He wants you to pull up some so you're not in the shot.
I can't hear you, my radio.
I know.
Can you pull up some so you're not in the middle of my shot?
Oh, hell.
Detail.
That, that's Steve for you. So we're thinking 70 yards or so?
It's 70 steps. So I don't know how many yards that'd be. At least 50 yards.
50 yards away.
yards. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
probably 60.
That's certainly not a difficult shot for practiced gunmen.
No,
From that
Yes, it
distance.
is actually.
Is it really?
Sure. That's a ways off. When you bring up a rifle and sight it at somebody standing at the edge of that corral, they're going to be this big.
Okay.
And also, the weapons of that time were not as effective as today's.
Okay.
Because, like a pistol, 45 or so, Colt, regardless of the make, was only good for about, across a wide street. That's about it.
Yeah, all the shots would have had to been rifle shots to hit Brady from this far.
They would have grabbed their rifles. Whenever they talk about their guns, they're talking about their rifles,
Yeah.
I noticed.
No one was sitting there doing the Lone Ranger over
Right.
the fence. Pew, pew,
Or
didn't-
fanning the
Yeah.
hammer.
Oh, nobody ever did that.
So, is there any warning for Brady? Do they yell out? Is it like in the movies where Billy goes, "Yoo-hoo, Sheriff Brady"? You know.
No. As a matter of fact, testimony to how poor the planning was, the first 5 shots out of 6 hit Brady.
Yeah.
5 out of 6 shots. So they knew who they were aiming at, just no one took time to plan
They
the
all
ambush.
shot at the same
Yeah,
guy.
Right. So no warning. Brady probably never even knew what hit him. He's hit that many times.
Right.
And he's going to hit the ground pretty hard. But who else is with him that gets hit?
Deputy Hinman is just a few steps ahead of him. He's also shot,
Mortally.
mortally wounded. Yeah.
So
he falls.
Hinman is maybe equal to this telephone or power pole here, but he's pretty close by to Brady.
Yeah, the witnesses say 7 to 10 steps away. He tries to turn when he's hit. He tries to take a few steps for the courthouse, which is around behind you.
Right.
But
And
he makes it about a step and falls flat on his face.
I remember, if I remember correctly, that Hinman's kind of crying for water as somebody drags him
Right.
away.
A lot of people that are suffering from bullet wounds call for water.
Gotcha.
Funny how that works. But it's true.
Okay. So
The guy who answers
Now.
that call is down at the Montano store, Ike Stockton.
Mhm.
And he's down
Go
at
ahead.
his bar.
Go
He comes running up with his
Go
hat.
ahead.
He tries to get to him, but there's another shot. Hinman's shot
Oh.
a second time.
okay,
We're not shooting. You can come by us.
come on through, Steve.
I thought you were filming.
No,
We are.
not yet.
Go ahead and slide on through. Hey,
Yeah.
how are you doing?
Yeah.
Good to
How you
see
doing,
you.
sir?
Good. Okay, so Brady's dead. Hinman's being dragged away, but there's
No,
one more.
Hinman's walking. He's
He-
on
he's-
the ground.
oh, he's-
he collapses. not
Okay,
being dragged away.
but there's one more guy.
Now there's 3 more guys. So you got just ahead of Hinman when they're walking is Deputy Jack Long. Very interesting character. He gets wounded in the attack, and he runs straight to the Torreon. You see the Torreon's right across
Yep.
from us. That's the closest place he can find to beat feet. That's where he goes.
Okay.
And And then back around behind us, around the corner where that SUV is parked, you can't see it from the house, but the Cisnero house is right there. And that's where Matthews and Pepin, they go beating feet. They're behind, so the closest place for them to go is going to be the Cisnero house.
Yeah,
that's
which
where they
is
go
about
running.
1/3 the size of this place.
Okay, so Matthews is an interesting character because he's going to fire a shot and inflict a wound, we think, on one of the regulators. But is that shot actually going to happen right here where Brady has fallen? Does somebody actually come out to Brady's body, tell him to reap the whirlwind, Sheriff? Sheriff, what happens?
It would be cool if that happened. What happened is, and the witnesses say that someone, and we know that it's the kid, comes popping up out of that corral and running to Brady's body. Now, there's multiple theories on why he did it, but the most likely reason is Brady had that rifle that he had taken from him a few weeks earlier.
Yes.
A Winchester that Tunstall had given him. So it's worth the risk. Young men are often, in war especially, alone and unafraid and able to take those stupid risks that they do. That's what he does.
I got a question, Drew. This is total speculation on your part. But
okay.
Brady had his own rifle. Hell, he had an armory full of rifles. Is he carrying the kid's rifle brazenly through town to send a message?
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
He was definitely carrying. It might have just been it was a newer rifle, you know.
Right.
But I don't know. Honestly, I doubt if anybody does.
So the kid comes here. They're not looking for any papers, arrest warrants for McSween, writ of attachment. Is that all just made up history?
Like I said, there's theories, but even if you took the paperwork, it's still going to be around. You're not going to squash it just because you have the papers.
Yeah.
Right.
You know
They could just reissue them.
Yeah.
That's not going to help anything.
So it's got to be. It's the rifle that he comes out for.
Can we take a walk and see where the Cisneros house is? Because I don't see an SUV, and I'm trying to figure out how they get a shot off.
So you see the tail end?
Yep.
I'm right. Tell me if I'm wrong, Drew.
Yeah. Right on the money as usual.
To also put some perspective where Brady and his men were, how they were straggled out. They weren't walking in a line like you think of the guys walking to the OK Corral, walking side by side down the street. They were staggered out. I mean, they weren't expecting trouble.
Yeah.
So
This is a good spot to talk about it because you can take everything in.
The Cisneros house is right here, about where this SUV is.
Between this SUV and this house, right in here.
I'm going to assume at that point that this sidewalk isn't built up, because if you're kneeling over the body of Sheriff Brady, by the fire hydrant, that's a pretty good shot to make from that angle. So I'm assuming there's some sort of slope here, or I know we won't know.
There used to be a water, whatchamacallit?
What is it, Aquila or whatever those little drainage things are?
Oh, a Acequia.
Yeah, Acequia. Yeah.
Acequia.
I
always get that
There was one
wrong.
of those that ran here, and actually Ike Stockton ran out of his house when, what's his name, started calling for water, and Stockton filled up his hat, ran over to, what's his name, but the fire, and then they started shooting at Stockton. He ran off too. They were pretty ruthless about this shit.
Seems
this good
like
guys, bad guys thing does not apply in this situation.
They all seem like they were bad guys.
Well, especially if you think all this area right here where they're shooting, there's kids.
Right.
There's several kids playing out.
Bunch of kids.
Yeah.
All right, so Matthews gets a shot off. Do we know, is the kid at Brady's body? Is he on his way? Is he on his way back?
I think he was bending over him, I believe, is what the account said, which means that Matthews had been here and the killer had been right there. It was a pretty easy shot for Matthews.
And Matthews had his
especially
rifle.
because the kid had stopped moving.
And so he takes that shot, kid gets hit, and then what does he do?
The kid drops the rifle, and all whatever motivation he had to go through Brady's body, he
Bullet
jumps
will
up.
do that, huh?
Yeah. But he scoots boots back to the corral as fast as he can.
So he's going to make that 50-yard run. Matthews still has a rifle, probably has more rounds. Pepin's there. Nobody else returns fire. They're facing.
The guys in the Torion couldn't.
John Long is wounded. He's in the Torion, probably trying to tie off his wound and deal with that. Pepin, not known as an aggressive gunman. Just my speculation, he's probably hunkered down waiting for the hell to pass over.
That's what he was usually doing.
Now, Matthews is a stubborn son of a gun, and he hates these regulators, especially the kid in particular. So you can imagine how much pleasure he must have took when he saw whoever it was come out, and he knows he got a shot off. When he finds out it's the kid, he's even more pleased. He doesn't know who he hit, but it's so close he thinks he gut shot him. He thinks it's a mortal wound. So that's why they start searching for whoever's left after the regulators leave town.
So Drew, I've seen the floorboards in the back of the Tunstall store, the hole cut open.
Yeah.
Did somebody do that at some point later to draw tourists in?
That was done by the state in Mexico.
It was.
That's for the tourists.
All right. So where does Billy go hide?
We don't know. Nobody knows for sure. Somewhere in that room, or we don't know. All we know is that the kid could see people pursuing him through the cracks in the floor, which means they were very, very close to him and couldn't see him.
Right.
All they had to do was look down, though.
Right.
And so that makes it kind of an interesting story, I think.
But the idea that somebody sawed a hole, put him under there, replaced
I wonder if they sawed a hole or just didn't pull up some loose.
That seems more likely.
Loose floorboards is more likely. They probably was a bum spot, and they were like, "Hey, this will work."
Knew about it.
Some warped boards,
Yeah,
no one's sitting there going, "Here they come!"
That's
quick,
exactly what I was thinking. All right, so let's walk a little ways down here. So the corral is partially.
This truck cranked up and parked right in front of where you need to shoot, right in front.
Yes. But if we're here on that day, the corral is right here in front of us. We're gonna wait for these trucks to go by.
The corral gate,
off the back of the
corral
store.
gate,
So the corral is off the back of the store. The Bonnie comes out, he gets shot, he makes his way back as fast as he can. What do the rest of the regulators do? I mean,
while he's doing that, they're they were saddled up. They're just mounting up and getting their, they're pulling pack horses behind them. That's why they came into town.
Yeah, you got to figure let's go back to why they came into town in the first place. They had to make sure McSween was going to get here safe, number one, but they had to resupply for everybody else. Because the rest of the regulators had to go take care of their business at home. These guys came in here to get resupply, ammo, food, things that they would need. So they were here, they were all packed up in the morning. When they get up, the first thing they do is load up their horses, make sure everything's locked and loaded, guns are ready, they're on their horses because they're gonna make sure McSween comes into town safe. He's been delayed. So they're packed up and ready to go. After the kid gets shot and comes running back into the corral, these guys are already getting ready to leave because they've just shot the sheriff. They're getting ready to leave because they just shot the sheriff.
A bad political maneuver.
Yeah, they're not going to hang around. And it's only, you get accounts that say they hung around for a while. They didn't stay too long because when they leave, John Long is still hidden down in the Torreon because he's still expecting fire.
I think if they were here 5 minutes, it would have been a long time. Yeah.
Which is why they end up leaving the kid because he can't ride. And they're like, that sounds like a you problem. We have to leave.
Yeah. Was there enough opposing firepower from the sheriff and deputies that if they'd stayed to shoot it out, they would have been killed? Or
they'd have been killed, but they'd have taken some of the regulators with them, I'm sure.
Right, gotcha. Yeah. So everybody at this point, the regulators have fulfilled their impromptu mission of ridding the town of Sheriff Brady, and nobody else has an appetite for a gunfight, right on Main Street here, at least at this time.
That's the sense. Yeah, but, and that also changed everybody's perception of the regulators too. They really screwed up.
This was the big mistake, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is what turned everybody against them.
What would have been? Because it seems it's not authorized by Brewer. McSween probably has nothing to do with it. What would have been the best course of action at that point? They've killed Morton and Baker and McCloskey. Tunstall is dead. Could everybody have just thrown down their weapons and said, let's call it good?
I guess they could have, but they weren't that kind of guy. Aside from the fact that, as I always point out, it was usually, they were not like people are today, but Brandon, you can tell us better than I can.
Well, too, the guys that were here, again, were the most trigger-happy, hot-headed, quick to the gun.
Was that just luck of the draw that those guys were here versus some mixture or Brewer? Or
well, Brewer was looking for volunteers to come to Lincoln. They had been here a couple days before.
Picking up supplies.
Yeah, they knew the situation was hot, but they didn't expect too much trouble. But if there was trouble, who's going to sign up for it? It's going to be those guys. Those are the guys who they didn't have farms to go worry about.
Right.
So when they came into town, if there was a fight, I don't think those guys would have been upset.
Gotcha.
And that was the whole point of them coming in.
Can we walk around the back of the store and see where the corral would be? Is there anything left of the Corral foundation or anything like that?
Yep. I don't think so.
Google Earth is probably the best way to see that, because you can see kind of the old ruin outlines of some of this stuff.
So just go ahead and walk up
Yes,
there. So just so I know, Brandon, the back of the store, the Corral didn't come across at street
No, so
depth.
we've been about halfway, right, Drew?
It's half to 3/4, but they never said from which side, which end.
Right here.
Oh,
Probably right in here somewhere is where that gate was.
gotcha. Okay.
And then this would have been gone. So then the wall would have come down back around.
Okay. And then it went out the back of the store as well. How far? I mean, to where the crosses are? Do we know?
I don't know exactly how far, but I'm sure if you look on Google Earth or someplace, we could probably see the outline. It's not too much further than that. It wasn't
Gotcha.
a giant Corral.
So Brandon, we're at the fire hydrant. This is approximately the spot where Brady fell, and Hinman just a few steps. So I wanted to give people kind of a perspective. Drew, can you step out? If you can see Drew, or give him a wave or something. Yeah, way there in the distance by the white car. That's about the distance, although oh, he's getting ready to draw too. That's about the distance that the shot would have been, even though the regulators are probably 15 or 20 foot back from there, huh?
Right.
Gosh, it looked way shorter when you were first telling me about it. But I look at that now and go with a Colt. Probably not.
Nah, it's got to be rifles.
Yeah, it's got to be rifle fire from that standpoint. And the run that the kid makes is from the Corral gate, which is somewhere just about to the north of where Drew's standing, all the way out here.
70 steps if he's beating feet, yeah.
And he gets hit from a shot coming from the Cisneros house, and then he's gonna, double time it back to right where he was. Does anybody shoot at him again, or was it that one shot? I don't know if I
it's
asked that.
Matthews.
Just that one
Just
shot,
Matthews pops
and he gets the one off, and he's probably happy enough with that, huh?
Well, he's convinced he gut shot whoever he shot. He wasn't sure at first who it was.
Right. That's wild. I think I need to do the run. Like I need to experience that.
70-step run?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it. So
You imagine that bullet went through his upper inner thigh. That'd be enough to make you want to move, at least me.
it'd have to be a lot of adrenaline
Yeah.
pumping through your veins to get you to sprint back there, but
Right.
it'd have to be stupid to not.
Yeah, you got to get to safety.
Was there any other cover? He can't run to the Torreon. I mean, he doesn't know Long's in there.
Because Long could pop up there, but I think it's just instinct. He comes from, when you get shot, you're gonna run to the place you know is safe, which is where he just came
Right.
from. You see a lot of guys in combat, when they get shot, they turn around and try and run back to safety before they actually collapse.
Gotcha. Well, I think I need to switch my rig, and I think I got to do the run. Would you stay here and be Sheriff Brady?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, so we're gonna make Billy's run here. See how long it takes. See what it feels like. I got a lot of adrenaline going right now. Right, we just killed the sheriff, and I want to go get my rifle back. And so I'm not sure where the rest of the guys have scattered to, but we're gonna make the run there. I'm here at Brady, over to get the rifle. Bang! Oh shit! Don't do that after eating a big breakfast burrito. So this is the door that the regulators file out of?
That's right. They come filing out here because their horses are locked and loaded and ready to go. They're expecting to leave. So they come out here, they grab their rifles. By this time, Brady is making his way across the front. That's why he's a little ways past the store by the time they get in position.
So it literally was just at the momentary decision. Like
Yeah.
from the time that
Yeah.
somebody alerts them that Brady's coming, they gather up whatever they've got. They come out the back door, grab their horses or grab their rifles and run up there. And how many paces is it, did you say?
I said 70 from about where that corral gate would be to where Brady falls.
So it's certainly no more than a minute before,
Yeah.
and probably more like 30 or 40
And
seconds.
he's moving slow because he's moving with Hinman. Hinman's all mangled and has a limp. People don't know that.
Yeah,
Hinman's a
Hinman.
tough dude who survived a bear attack and he's been all shot up to pieces, but he's still a gruff old dude making his way.
So a minute at most, these guys
Yeah.
decide to make the most fateful bad decision of the Lincoln County War, and there's nobody to stop them.
No one to stop. This is the killing that seals the kid's fate. This is what's going to haunt him for the rest of his life. He's the only one who's going to be troubled by it.
Ah, it's incredible. Nobody was here in a position. Who's the most senior regulator behind this corral wall?
So you got McNabb and Widman. Widman probably thinks he's the boss of something, but Widman is the boss of himself.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he's back here. When the shooting happens, there's witnesses. There's George Robinson, George Washington, McSween's guys, and then there's Robert Widman, who's standing back here, and he says, "I witnessed the killing. I didn't participate in it." And they said, "Well, you had two guns, 2 gun belts, and a rifle." And he said, "Yeah, I was back there to feed the dog." They said, "That's a lot of firepower to feed the dog." He said, "Tunstall's dog was vicious." So the newspapers after that, they start making fun of him and calling him the dog feeder.
The dog feeder. Got it. Okay, so they make their way up, they fire, and now they're going to spend less than 5 minutes here, and they're going to get out of town. Do they ride past Brady's body, or is there a trail back here?
They ride out. So when they come out, they're going to take that hard left because they've got to book it to San Patricio.
Right.
So they ride right past the same guys that they've just shot. However, on their left side as they're leaving is the Torreon.
Right.
Now at the Torreon is Deputy Long, who's tied off his wound or has figured out that here comes the regulators. But at this point, he sits up from his cover, and witnesses say he fires at least 4 shots at the
Really?
regulators. That's when Jim French takes one in the thigh as they're riding out.
Ah.
Side to side.
Side to side.
He was hit
Oh, in the side, sorry.
So that's where the 2 shot people are. It's not 2 people running over to Brady and getting shot.
Right.
It's completely afterwards, separate gunmen.
Makes way more sense.
Yeah. And do they fire back on Long, or he's in a
So-
pretty good defensive position?
He
They're at a
is.
full
They
gallop.
take off, and they're at a full gallop. But John Middleton, who Tunstall writes about him being a tough guy, capable of a lot of things, Middleton has enough of whoever's shooting at him. He wheels around, and he turns around, jumps off his horse, opens fire with his Winchester back at the town. John Long loses all motivation, and anyone else who's with him, and they scatter.
Yeah.
Middleton gets on his horse and takes off and catches up with everybody else.
And off they go into history.
Off they go. However, that's 5 horsemen who have left. 1 horse is still back here, locked, cocked, ready to go. Its owner bleeding and looking for aid because he just got shot.
And he's somewhere, we think, in this building.
Well, when the when the Murphy men came back here and found that horse, they found a blood trail leading into the building. So,
And how many times they went in more than once to try to find him?
well, they tore the place apart trying to find him.
Soldiers
still
even came in hours later and searched again. Still couldn't find him.
Might change his name to Billy Houdini.
But you imagine he's in whatever. If it's they pried up those floorboards, it's a tight squeeze, and he's laying there with 2 guns just.
All right, Brandon. So we're not at the corral behind the Tunstall store anymore. In fact, we're set out in back of the Ellis store, bed and breakfast. What does the murder of Sheriff Brady have to do with this place?
Well, it ties in how Billy the Kid got away. When we left him, he was wounded. He was still hiding in the Tunstall store. People had the blood trail. They were looking for him, searching for him for hours. He's laying there seeing the people looking for him. Finally, the searchers give up. Murder happens between 9 and 10 a.m. By 1 or 2, no more searching in the Tunstall store. The kid takes advantage of this time to get away, and his exit is via across from the Ellis store here.
So did he have to come shooting his way out?
So no, he didn't do that. Witnesses say that a lone figure came walking out of Tunstall's corral. Now, by this time, everybody else has been either arrested or they've left town. So this lone figure comes walking out with his head down and leads his horse out outside the corral down to the Bonita River. And there's witnesses that talk about it. No one knows who this lone figure is until he gets almost to the river, and then people start to recognize, hey, that's Bonnie. That's that kid. So the call goes out through town. People start shooting at him. It's kind of a fantastic tale when you think about it, but even Nolan mentions it, and Rash mentions it specifically. If Rash has mentioned it, it's going to be good.
Right.
But the kid, once he gets to the river and the townspeople have realized, hey, that's him, and they're shooting at him, he gets on his horse. He goes across the river. It's a lot wider at that time than it is now. He gets across the Bonita. He's on the far side. He heads back east, coming this way to the Ellis store. And just through here, there's a little elevated patch of high ground where he looks back at the town and realizes all their bullets are falling way too far, that they're not going to hit him. He's way out of range. So he gets up on this high ground where he can look back at the town, and he sees people up on the hill that are watching him escape. And they've quit shooting by this point. And he turns around, and there's conflicting reports on exactly what he does. But for the most part, we know that he tips his hat to the crowd. It's kind of a screw you bow, I made it. And then turns his horse and takes off down towards San Patricia.
Oh,
Talk
wow.
about character.
That's
Kid
wild.
had character.
Was the Ellis store a potential destination, or is this just where he realized that he was out of range and they couldn't get him?
This is just where he realized he was out of range. He would have known that because the Ellis store is a familiar place to the Regulators.
Right.
They resupplied here. They were friendly to their faction.
With a flourish, Billy the Kid rides
Yeah.
off and escapes
Tip
death
of the hat.
one more time with the tip of the hat. That's great. Hey, Brandon, thanks for being here and doing this.
Thanks for having me as always. Love being here, man.
The folks just love the on-site stuff. If you want a tour, your own personal tour from Brandon, where do they find you?
Most Dangerous Street Tours. I'm on Facebook. You can Gmail me. I'm easy to find.
Okay, Facebook, Most Dangerous Street Tours, and Gmail address is same, Most Dangerous Street Tours.
Most Dangerous Street Tours at gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Also, if you go through Pals of Billy the Kid's Historical Society, there's a whole page there.
Gotcha.
that can
Pals
get
of
to
Billy the Kid Historical Society.com, and there's a page as well for tours there.
Yes.
And when's the busy season?
Busy season picks up in late April through May.
It's coming.
And into June. Yeah, that'll be a busy time.
So get your
It's the good
tours
stuff,
booked
though.
now. Right on.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Michael.
All
I
right,
appreciate
bye.
it, man.